What's going on, Illumineers? Welcome back to episode 10 of the Freedom Gaming Podcast. I'm super excited to be at 10. It's been a pretty fun journey. And here we are, still 10 episodes later, and still having people to listen to us talk about some cards.
Sure.
So pretty cool. We have a little three pack for you here today. Not the usual three pack, as we got Joey back. Brian and Michael, unfortunately, had to back out last second. They had some stuff going on, but obviously, we will look to have them back hopefully next week. So welcoming back once again, we have Joey to my left. Joey, how you doing today?
We're doing good. Great to be here. Ten's a big number.
10 is it's a good number. It's a very good number,
Hmm.
especially if you're a soccer player. Right underneath me, per usual, we have Mike. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, doing well. I think we got 10 episodes and you and I are the only ones that have been on every one. So hey,
That
here's
is
to
true.
that.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I was definitely thinking about it. And then,
carries.
per usual, I am John hosting and driving the bus like we normally do. So one kind of major announcement, I guess, would be obviously, as most of you know, that the NA Continental tickets, LCQ tickets, went on sale last week, and we were lucky enough to have 4 tickets secured. The only person unable to get a ticket was Michael, but Joey, last second, will not be able to make it. So hopefully, we could do a nice little handoff with Joey and Michael somehow. If not, maybe Michael can get lucky on the wait list. But myself, Mike, and Brian will all be there. So we're going to Disneyland.
Yeah,
I've always
yeah.
wanted to say that. So that should be super cool. So if you are heading to LCQ or Continentals and you want to say hi, please come up to us. Say hi. Maybe we'll be doing some impromptu interviews, boots on the ground type stuff. So
Yeah.
if you want to be featured on the channel or in a short or something, be on the lookout for us. We will definitely be wearing our hoodies, our jerseys. So we look forward to meeting any and all of you that are interested to meet us. So. Uh, Not much to talk about outside of EU Continentals, which are starting on Saturday. So obviously the LCQ is going to be at the time of recording. We're recording Thursday night, so Friday morning. So or maybe even honestly by the time that we finish recording, it might be starting up. Honestly,
Yeah.
in Paris at some point or in the middle of the night. So
Hmm.
obviously 32 brackets of 32 players. Got to go 5-0. Get yourself into the main event. That 96 player cap should be quite interesting for EU. So some pretty heavy hitters there that we know about, but we're mainly going to just talk about our tier list going into the Continentals. So we're just going to just start from the bottom, going just ranking all of the color combinations
Do you
that we
want
can
to,
see.
John, real quick? Do you
Yep.
want to talk about the open deck list
Hmm.
uh,
Drama.
drama
Oh, actually,
on
yeah,
Twitter?
this actually is yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good audible. There you go, Mike.
yeah,
So
yeah.
so the big news that came out from EU Continentals, which was it yesterday or was it two? Was it was on
2 days ago.
it was
A
what
couple days ago,
it was
yeah.
yeah, I think on Tuesday, was that deck lists will not be open for Swiss. So 7 rounds of Swiss, you're not going to open deck lists. They will only be open for the round of 16 and onward, which is like standard challenge rules. But if you are picked to be on stream, you are not allowed to decline. Otherwise, you will forfeit your match.
Yep.
So the big consensus is that a lot of people are not too happy with that, as obviously if you play round one, and the way how they do it in Europe is that Europe is all live. So if you play in round one, they're gonna know, like anyone watching will you'll know what you were playing, as opposed to in NA how we've been recording them and then they air it like 2 hours later or something along those 2 or 3 hours later. Um, so a lot of discourse that people are mad that they can't decline, and then the fact that they are actually legitimately going to get punished. So I kind of just want to hear your thoughts on that. We can start with Mike as you brought it up. So
Yeah, I think it's kind of weird. I saw the other audible people are saying is just wear non pig sleeves or whatever, like wearing like just using Batman sleeves or My Hero sleeves,
yep.
shout out
Yeah.
Hector.
Hmm.
And you could just not get picked because they won't let you use those, or they're just gonna make you re-sleeve. I don't know.
Hmm.
But I think it is a big disadvantage if you are one of those players chosen in the beginning, because look, they may know what color you're playing if you're very well established in a
Hmm.
certain archetype. They may assume you're
Hmm.
going to play that archetype, but they won't know your tech choices. And I feel like a lot of the decks right now, their 50 cards are pretty much locked in
Hmm.
for most archetypes. So you got like 10 that you can kind of fiddle with to address your whatever meta you're planning to play in. So if you have a team of people that are watching the stream, or even a team of friends
Hmm.
that are like, "Hey, here's what they're on in case you play them in the following rounds," that is a huge disadvantage.
Yep.
And it kind of just makes it a little unfair for some of the other people. So I don't know. What's the answer? Do you make an open deck list for everybody? Like, do you pre-record the stream? I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to make it. It probably is just open decklist tournament
Hmm.
is
Yep.
the easiest way to answer it, but it's not going to be that at this point. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's such a hard, such a weird line to draw. Because I know at least for Toronto, when they picked us, they kind of picked all four of us. They picked four matches, and then they were like, all right, tables 1, 2, 3, 4, like come with us. And we were like, we didn't really have a chance to say no or yes, and we kind of just did it. I mean, like I wasn't saying no anyway at that point. But then they were like, does anyone have any non Lorcana? Not or non opaque sleeves or whatever, and I think they were willing to just give us sleeves at that point. We all were in regulation with it, so we were fine. So I think the sleeve thing might not even matter more than anything else. They're just like,
Well, I
here.
know for Hector, they denied him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I want to say Dallas, the one he did really well in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They said that he couldn't be on stream because of his sleeves.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, they were
Um,
in Toronto. They were gonna give us sleeves, so
oh,
that's
so maybe that could. I mean, again, those are what
yeah,
is there two DLCs between that time?
yeah.
Yeah.
They were
You
they were.
could have
Yep.
changed that
Mhm.
by
They
that
probably
point.
learned.
Yeah, to not just turn people away. So that could very much be the case now.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, they were prepared. They were like, oh, does anyone have any sleeves that are non Disney, non opaque or whatever, or that are just basic? And they were like, no, we're all good. And they're like, okay, if not, we have sleeves. So I was like, oh, okay. Obviously, the big thing is no IP on stream, so like I couldn't wear my jersey, and he had to like turn around my hat and put painter's tape on like the logo.
Really?
um,
Dang,
but
yeah.
then, but anyway, just going back to like the actual Continentals tournament, like I feel like just seeing these bigger tournaments, they should almost be open deckless at this point, like because you're playing such a
Mhm.
smaller, like a smaller player pool that like
Yeah,
not necessarily that you can metagame it because like everyone will get the deck list at the same time, or you'll just be able to know and like look it over. But I guess like it makes like timing, like giving people like 5 minutes to look over a deck list, like adds 5 more minutes to each round. I
Sure.
think it's only about a half hour, 45 minutes if you think about it that way. So it just adds a little bit more time, a little more difficult, I guess, in a way, just logistically. Like, how do you hand out these deck lists? Is it all on your phone, which you're not allowed to have at the table anyway? But I personally do believe that open deck list should be what it should be at this point for
Yeah.
these smaller player pool, like invite only type tournaments. Like, I think
Mhm.
Worlds absolutely should be open deck list, like with 27 people, 28 people,
yeah,
however much it should be. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I personally don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, yes, the tech choices are like knowing like if they're on like for someone who plays Green Steel, like knowing that they're on more babooms or they're knowing they're on 3 coves as opposed to 2 coves, like something like that. I just can say
Mhm.
that talk about from experience. So like whereas like other deck lists, like maybe they're on like red purple is something on they're on more rabbits and genies or something like that, or they're on playing no goats or no bounce like something ridiculous like that.
yeah,
So like that stuff, I think it does matter to a point. But also, I'm kind of under the assumption that like you're at this point at this tournament, like you're one of the best 96 players in Europe. You're one of the best hop 128 players in North America. Like,
Yep.
take it for what it's worth. Like, go have fun. Like, if it sucks, it
yeah,
sucks. Like, um, that's my take on it. But again, like I know, like I'm not saying like my take is the right one and everyone else is wrong.
Mhm.
But I see both sides to it, and like I know if I was
Sure.
playing like a weird deck or something different, like if I was playing Mike's deck, which is very intricate and like has a lot of like interesting choices in it, that
Mhm.
a lot of that is the element of the surprise that the Blurple deck is. That I could see myself not being a fan of going on stream round 1, whereas like
Sure.
round 4, where like okay, the word has gone around that Blurple's in top 4 and
yeah.
like high up that like okay,
Yeah.
then at that point like you're kind of everyone knows. Joey, anything else you want to add to it though?
I think a way that you could combat it is do the open deck list that we talked, like
Hmm.
that you guys talked about, but also have deck lists submitted a week prior,
Oof, I
like
don't know
five
about
days
yeah.
prior.
I
that
don't
I
that
know
mean,
about
like,
that.
that's tough.
no, there's some other
I
tournaments that I've seen that they
mhm.
submit them 3 days in advance.
Yeah.
That way, commentators have ways to research the deck choices.
Hmm.
They know the people going in. Everyone already knows what everyone's playing,
Hmm.
so that you're not having to last minute, like you said, look at a deck list. It's like, all right, I know this person. They're playing X, Y, and Z.
Hmm.
Go from there. That way, the level field is there, so
Hmm.
that you don't screw over the guys that have 10 people at home watching the stream and analyzing the deck and texting you exactly what's in the deck list and
Hmm.
all the
Yep.
intricacies. So everyone has a fair playing field going into it. Because, like, I don't know, mental load wise, I wouldn't want to be stressing out about, oh, I got to find out what the guy on stream's playing because I might play him at a 5% chance next round. Like, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of extra mental energy on an already stressful day. Being at a 96 player capped event, like I don't know. I just think open deck list makes it simple. You sit down, you know your opening mulligans, like everything just becomes way more streamlined and you like I don't know. I don't understand the complaining either about being on stream. Like this is a competitive level event. This is why we play this game. This is why like what you're striving to be towards. Like why like you being on stream means you're at the top tables, which means you are one of the best. Like you should be wanting to be on stream.
Well,
Like,
at least later on in the day, like I talked to one of the judges in Toronto, as before I got on stream at around 5, like as I was working my way up, like there was people like getting picked around me, and like they were more well-known players at that point. And so I asked the judge, I'm like, hey, is there like any like rhyme or reason to it? They're like, we kind of just pick people that people like at that point. Like it's like people that are doing good, but also people that they know that are gonna be gotta be good. So like round 1 and round 2, it's gonna be popular players on stream. Like you're gonna see like your DKPs might get on round 1, or and then round 2 could be like Artifacts,
yeah.
Frank Karsten, someone like people of those caliber are going to be like your round 1, round 2 matches, and then like as you get like deeper into the tournament, like round 3 and 4 will be like your 3-0s, your 4-0s, and then like when people start IDing, it'll be like, okay, this is a win. Whoever wins this, if they someone 2-0s, they're in and they can keep fighting, stuff like that. It'll be stuff like that later on in the day.
Yeah.
So like they definitely did confirm that it's more of like the earlier rounds is just like who do people want to see? It's like, do we really want to see the two people at their first DLC misplay for 45 minutes? Probably not. So
it's just card games in a sense are you're battling over slightly different edge points, right? Like they're very, very small edge points.
Yep.
If you're both playing as optimally as possible, you're looking at like a 2% better, right? Rate. Now, if you know the information of what's in their deck, I don't think that's a lot of mental load if someone's telling you like, hey, he's on red purple burn instead of traditional burn.
Yep.
You already know in your mind, like, okay, I know how to attack that from you've done the reps, you know what you're doing. It's not like you're changing your entire game plan unless there's like one card that you're worried about.
I'm talking about mental load on the day. Like I'm sitting here playing my game round 1 and I have to worry about the guy that's on stream because I might play him and I have to try to figure out what he was playing.
You're not doing that though. Someone else is doing that.
Someone yeah.
I'm saying if you don't have that person, like not all 96 people have a team,
which makes it even more unfair.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's like the mental load of it. Like you have to stress out about that. Like if you don't have that team.
Yeah, and I think that kind of proves the point as well for those people that don't have those teams of people. It's unfair for them as well. Sure. My dad's a big proponent of. He's like, when we sit down at a DLC, I should know what two colors those people are playing.
Yep.
Yeah, which is a proponent of open deck lists.
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's a good middle ground for it, at least.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of eliminates the best of 3 things.
He's said that since the beginning. Like ever since Atlanta, he's been like it's ridiculous that we have to play this 2-game format. And
well, it's funny because he's never played card games, and like that's his
take. That's his take. Yeah, it's we're like, man, that's a crazy take, but you think about it, you're like, huh, it's actually a good one. Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, he that is something he's been on. So shout outs to Michael for maybe a good take.
Yeah, and I do think we should talk about the 10 extra spots that were given for Worlds.
Yeah,
because now being to 26, I think that's spicy.
That is spicy because that is an interesting number. 26 is a very interesting number. So basically, the past out, it's every DLC winner is now they got a direct invitation to Worlds. That was just announced on like Monday. So it wasn't even like this was like they knew about this. Like I think
such a load off of the guys that won.
I think Luke he's like yeah, I woke up and found out that that I went to Worlds and Sailor won his Continental match. He's like, what a great day.
Dan landed in Paris and was like, because he's playing in the LCQ. I think he's just doing it more for fun and more practice. Obviously, like people at that level, they really love playing other people of similar caliber. And he showed up and like, oh, I already qualified for Worlds. Like, I mean, that's awesome.
That's pretty sick. Cool, yeah,
just like it's so late on the information, and now we're at 26 players. Everybody's sitting there thinking like, what's gonna happen now? Because
Karsten might just not even show up at this point, right? He said he barely plays Lorcana after he won. So
I don't know. No, man, he's killing it right now in the LCCC.
Yep. And he bought Chuck's guide too, so he's
Yeah.
learning all the best Seal Song tech.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm kind of intrigued. Like I think, could you imagine like a 6 spot LCQ get them to a round number of
Dude.
32? That would be
Mhm.
a nuts bloodbath. Like I couldn't even
Yeah.
imagine. Like that would
Well,
be.
so that's one of the things that I'm like interested in as well. It's like you have guys like Luke, you have guys like Frank that are going to play in these Continentals, and it's like, what happens if they top 8?
The pass down.
Like
Pass down,
the
yeah.
pass
That's not
down,
going to be
that
handled.
Oh,
number
the
is gonna
pass
be
down is
crazy.
what's real bad though, because it's based on your Swiss standings. It's not
Yeah.
based on your where you are in day two. So if you're yeah, like depending on your seed when you lose, like if the pass down, like if someone like higher in Swiss standings finishes higher than it's crazy. Yeah.
Well,
So
this is like Jack's whole stance, and shout out to him is he doesn't ID, he doesn't chop because you want to play for standings,
yeah.
and standings
True.
matter in this tournament. Like
Mhm.
if you want to ID in the later rounds and you don't perform on day 2,
Mhm.
you're out.
Yeah.
Do we know if it's all right? So let's say there's a top 8, right?
Mhm.
And one of those worlds or one of the DLC winners are in that top 8. Does it go from the Continental, or does it go from their existing DLC that they won? Does it go to second place in that?
I think
I
it's
don't
the
think they said it.
Continental.
I honestly don't think they've even thought. I'll be honest. I don't think they've thought that far through. It'll probably be from the Continental though.
Yeah,
I
See,
would.
I would think it'd be less confusing if they just gave it to second at that DLC.
Yeah, but then you're getting someone. I guess it's more
I don't
so.
know. I don't know.
It's
It's like weird.
yeah,
It's
it's
really
weird. I guess
weird.
it's more so like a recency bias. I guess like are you rewarding someone who like think about Chicago when the Rat won. Are we
Mhm.
Yeah.
rewarding someone from who played green purple then who lost to Brian, or are we rewarding someone who got ninth at a tournament 2 months before Worlds
With
in set
yeah,
six?
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
That's
so
fair.
it's just it's a weird. I would imagine it's the Continental, but knowing RB, it could literally be anything. They could play rock paper scissors between 4 people, and whoever didn't
Oh,
tie
yeah.
wins.
It's exciting.
It
It
is
keeps
it,
it
Yeah, it is.
exciting.
it does keep it exciting. That is for sure. So I know we're all
Corner
gonna
goes.
be we're all definitely gonna be locked in. When I'm not at PAX playing games, I will definitely be locked in for sure. Um,
Mhm.
so that was a good 15 minutes of talk about
Yeah.
Continentals that we weren't even planning on talking about. So shout
Yeah.
out to us for that. So now we're going to talk about our tier list um, going into EU Continentals and probably a little bit into NA Continentals somewhat. This will probably change just because
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen in a month. So we'll start off. So we have all of them, all the color combinations ranked. They're pretty even except for the last tier. So I guess we'll go bottom to top probably for the best. So in our C tier we have Ruby Steel and Emerald Ruby. I guess we could talk. Yeah, I guess Joey, you can start us off with why do we have these in almost C tier, aka like unplayable, kind of irrelevant, like decks that you're not really gonna see, and if you do see them, you're probably in a good shape as long as you're playing a top tier deck. Joey, what do you wanna anything to add to these?
Yeah, I mean these are both kind of like pet decks that people play,
Mhm.
like green red evasive
Yep.
or red steel pirates.
Pirates.
They really just go all in on the tribal theme and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And they're either a pet deck or they're a new player who's coming in. There's just still not enough support. We
Yep.
thought that we would get something with red steel pirates this set, and then it just isn't panning out. There could still be something there, but
Hmm.
as of right now, where the meta is shaken out, it's just you could get got by these decks.
Oh,
Like they're
100%.
definitely terrifying. Like if you run into a green red player who just literally goes 1 to 5 all evasives and you have no answers, just die.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
but I don't think the top tier guys are going to be testing these decks or playing these decks or expecting to play against them. So
I don't even imagine that we might see one Pirates, might I mean
yeah,
maybe something like that, but I don't imagine we would in a 96 player tournament. You never know though.
You got to remember, it's still 2 round in the beginning, right?
Yep.
So
sure.
what qualifies it as being good? I mean, we had a Ruby Steel make it in top 64 in
Mhm.
Vegas,
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
I think it was Vegas, not Seattle.
Yeah,
And
I
they've
think it was
gotten
Vegas.
more. Maybe it was. I can't remember, but there was a one that made top
Mhm.
64, and I mean, it got more tools, right?
Yep.
It could someone could get innovative enough, and I think there's some of that Ruby Emerald Robin Hood stuff out
Yep.
there. I think you'd have to really high roll to be able to beat a lot of the meta decks,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, I definitely think those are the two outliers that I don't anticipate having a good showing.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about Emerald Ruby Robin Hood, and then I watched someone play it in a Discord match or something, and they just like whiffed on like three Robin Hood triggers. And I'm like, that's why we're not playing this card.
Yeah.
I think I pulled a playset, and I didn't
But
even.
when you came back, you can do it twice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can win 4 times in your game.
It's worse than Oswald.
Oh my gosh, Oswald, the craziest card that ended up not being just okay. Who knows? Maybe Oswald's
Yeah,
gonna.
I'd wait on
I'd
that
wait.
one. Yeah,
I'd wait. Yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
gonna say anything.
yeah.
I'm
Who
not gonna
Let me
knows?
say
get more
anything.
items and let me brew more. I got
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
I wouldn't be surprised if it makes a showing this weekend.
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. Well, we'll get to Oswald in a second. So
Yeah.
that's our C tier. The decks that you probably won't see. Now, some decks that could definitely take you by surprise, and we will see, is are going to be our B tier. So we'll just go through all four of them, and then we can talk about them. So in our B tier, we have Amber Ruby, we have Amber Sapphire, Emerald Sapphire, and then one that is probably gonna get a lot of hate from all you discard players is Amber Emerald. So we'll start with Mike. Mike, how do you feel about these? Our B tier, probably closest to our mid tier, in our tier list.
Yeah. So, I mean, I consider myself an Amber Ruby player for a long time. Outside of Blurple, I probably put up most results with Amber Ruby. I think all four of these decks, if they see certain decks the whole day, they can 2-0 a bunch of decks, right?
100%.
Like yellow or Amber Sapphire, if they see blue steel every game, they can 2-0 every single time. Amber Ruby has some game into like red purple. It can go under a lot of decks too, because you can build it a few different ways, but it's just not consistent enough, right? There's too many things that can hit Goth before you can get the damage out or stop your curve from happening. There's just ways to that I'm not a big fan of right now. I wouldn't bring this deck, and I did bring it to Toronto, so for whatever that's worth. I've never really played Emerald Sapphire, but if you played against Steel Song the whole day, I think you would do very well. It just does a lot of that's I think the Blurple deck of this meta right now. If we took a step back, and I'm not trying to like get ahead of ourselves here, but I think Emerald Sapphire is the Blurple deck of set 6.
Yep.
Right? Like what it was last set. It's a rogue deck that if someone does not have the reps into and they get ramped into Bend on My Wheel and they have 8 cards in hand, they're probably gonna cry and lose. But that could definitely surprise some people. So I think out of all the colors that we have kind of low, this is probably the one that I'd be like, this could definitely show up and just they could win the whole thing. And then Amber Emerald, honestly, Green Steel is just better in pretty much every way. There could be an Amber Emerald aggro deck. I know. Shout outs to Jack, a local of ours. Was doing a combo with Meg and discarding Lilo, the 3/6 Meg 3 cost.
Yeah.
Discard the Lilo to put it in your discard so you can use that a little later, which is a pretty cute interaction. There could be an aggro deck there, but I don't think it's consistent enough. But that's what I feel about on the B tier of what we have.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like the Ruby, the Amber Ruby with Mufasa, with Yo Aggro, like there's definitely stuff there. It has only gotten kind of progressively better throughout the meta. Obviously, we have Lilo now. You had Daisy last set, and then now you have bigger stuff like you have like Teeth Scar. So there's a lot of stuff there still. Probably the deck that the resurgent deck I would say would be the Amber Sapphire, because like that was a set 1 deck. Like it wasn't a great set 1 deck, but it had game. Between like the princesses or like just any of the ramp with the and obviously Rapunzel was just broken in set 1, and then whatever way you decide to build Amber Emerald between if you go like the discard, the under the sea type thing, you go aggro with this Kita stuff. But I definitely do agree with your take on Emerald Sapphire, how like it was a deck that wasn't really a thing, and then it became a deck with like just the new cards this format or this set. It's like in that same way that Blurple wasn't. It was a deck, but then like it got so much better once we got Mufasa in set 5. So I do like that. Joey, anything you want to add before we close out this B tier?
I think a lot of these decks are like they don't cover the meta in a good enough spread. I think they're like 2/3 decks.
Hmm.
Like they cover 2/3 of the meta, and then they lose really hard to the other third.
Yep.
And I also think that they're just like these decks that have a lot of different builds to them, a lot of different variations that aren't really settled on what's the most optimal line
Hmm.
for how to build. And like blue steel, you can go whole new world, you can go not whole new world. Amber ruby, you can go locations, you can go Mufasa. So like, and that's one of the problems with these decks too is when you're like facing, you're sleeved up against them, and you see them ink a amber ruby, and you don't know which one they're on.
Yep.
Like you have to assess very quickly
Hmm.
on your mulligans and your decision making, and all five of these decks can go both different routes. Um, but in that case, they can go both different routes. So building decisions are really poorly done sometimes, and I fall into that trap all the time of trying to make bad decks work. And so these color combinations are just all the bad decisions I've made in the past. So
It's just trying to just do too much at once. Like
exactly.
that's another thing that these decks are. Like they're trying to do a lot of different things. So like kind of like a jack of all, or like a was it jack or something master of none or whatever.
Yeah.
Jack of
Jack
yeah,
of
And
all.
jack of all,
one
master of
thing I
none.
would one thing I would add too for the Amber Ruby specifically,
Hmm.
outside of locations in Amber Ruby, your draw is Rapunzel,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much every purple deck now, Amethyst deck, is playing Belle. And a good player will just remove the damage off of your target like a Gothel.
Hmm.
Like the amount of people I played against that go Gothel into Dock and I just kill their Dock with
Doc. Yep.
Gothel.
Hmm.
Um,
But I would argue that why is Tamago such a big threat right now, if that's the case?
Well,
what do you
Like
mean?
about damage just staying on. Like Tamago is such a big problem for a lot of decks to deal with to end games.
well, yeah.
That's
But if
how
if you're not playing against Emerald, then you really don't have to worry about that then.
Yeah, but I mean, you're if you're playing against Amber Ruby guys, kill their draw and you will win almost every time.
Hmm.
sure.
Like if you stop them from getting Rapunzel value, I mean, there's sometimes you can't interact with it. Like at the point where Tamago would be coming down, they're never just willy nilly playing a Gothel, so you can just Tamago them. They're
Hmm.
gonna play both, so they can just heal it instantly. But I'm talking about on the early curve.
Hmm.
If you're able to move that damage, like Bell is very good against those decks.
Yep.
So and again, I think every Amethyst deck is playing Bell right now,
And that's definitely
except probably
and
a yellow purple.
that's definitely an interaction too that a lot of people miss is that the movement from Bell, the first character is chosen character, so it's yours or your opponent's,
Yep.
and the second one has to be an opponent's character, and that's an interaction that a
Mhm.
lot of people miss.
Yep.
So that's our B tier. So our A tier is definitely going to have some people in a little bit quite questioning this. These are definitely very good decks, decks that have probably been S tier at some point, and could very well find their way to winning the tournament. And those decks we have are going to be Emerald Steel, Amethyst Steel, Amber, Amethyst, specifically aggro, and then Sapphire Steel in its iterations. Mike, why don't we start with you? How do we feel about these A tier decks?
Yeah, I mean, I will be clear about one thing. I really think any of these color combinations in both S and A could win the entire tournament,
Hmm.
and it
Mhm.
wouldn't be a huge surprise, which is an awesome thing for our meta right now in this game. It's very open, which is fun, right? It's very fun. It's hard to prepare for
Yep.
from a
Mhm.
competitive standpoint because you really don't know what you could be facing. Um, Emerald Steel, I could be wrong about. It's also one of the deck I play the most hardest matchups. But I've just seen too much to where I don't. I feel like it has some issues still, um, and it could just be play patterns that I'm noticing. But I don't think it's in the position that it once was. Obviously, it's won the last two DLCs, so why is it in A? I guess could be a question. But I personally think it got Tamago, which is a good tool. It got Basil, which is a good tool
Hmm.
for the discard variant.
Mhm.
Um, I think the aggro variant may be a little better, to be honest, but that's a kind of another take as well. I think Amethyst Steel does a lot of what Emerald Steel does, but a little better, a little more lenient. There's a lot more tempo plays you can make.
Hmm.
Um, Sapphire Steel, I hear from everyone that it just doesn't have enough tools, but it just doesn't make sense to me because there's too many good cards they got from set six.
Yep.
Mhm.
So I don't believe them. And I haven't done enough building on my own to be like, this is just not it's not. I haven't had the time to spend on Sapphire Steel, but I just think there's too many tools there that there has to be a deck. And it wasn't that far off. I think Moyne said that he thought Sapphire Steel was the best deck in set 5.
Mm-hmm.
So if it just got a bunch more tools, how is it not still very, very good? So I'm interested to see that for sure this weekend. I think Sapphire Steel will make a showing.
Mm-hmm.
And then to speak about Amber Amethyst, I mean, there's not a lot to talk about there.
If it hits the
Cards go
matchups,
fast.
if it hits the matchups, it's gonna end. It's gonna win the tournament.
If it draws
it's
the cards
also-
it needs,
Yeah, but it's also like look at how many purple cards are in this. All the purple color, all the Amethyst decks are in this top 2 tiers,
Mhm.
and those decks have changed so much now. It's almost unquestionable that you're gonna play Elsa, right? You're playing 5-cost Elsa in an Amethyst deck, and at least 1 or 2 bells. It's kind of like across the board. You're seeing that, which is not great for Amber Amethyst. Those are 2 cards that can disrupt their game plan. You're like, oh, I get to restand this and save it for a turn. No, you don't. It doesn't matter. I got Elsa. There's definitely. I don't know if it's as good as it was, like say Vegas, Seattle. But again, if it hits its curve, triple Daisy, Daisy turn 1, ink 2 more Daisies. Like I don't know many decks that can stop that.
Yep.
But yeah, any of these all these decks are very good. They're very, very good. So I wouldn't be surprised if they this weekend.
Yep. Joey, anything you want to add?
I think a lot of the decks that we're seeing in A and S tier that we'll get to in a little bit, a lot of the decks that we've seen that are out there on the internet and Ink decks and Dreamborn and all those things on Twitter and Reddit, I think there's a lot of hidden tech from a lot of these competitors.
Yep.
Because we're
No
we're
Pixelborn
talking about
anymore.
we're talking about some of the best players in the world that consistently bring new stuff every tournament that like is just not even on a lot of people's radars. And they're building in a way that like just regular deck builders aren't thinking about. The consistencies, the synergies and stuff like that. Like what we might think is a bad card, like they just completely exploit in a good deck, and a build around and stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of stuff that's out there right now that we see as the best version of blue steel or purple steel or green steel right now. And it's just like, I think that there's some crazy tech out there that's just not even being talked about right now.
What's the Karsten's playing it in his LCCC deck. It's like a one of, and everyone is like he's only playing 1, and everyone was freaking. What? No, it was something. I have to look it up. I'll look it up after. But there was one card in his list, and it was like a one of, and everyone was like, and people. I remember because Baker was like, "How is he only playing 1 of these?" And he like ripped it every time he needed it. It was like,
I think he had a few one ofs, and I mean the guy's. He's a legend for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Like, yeah, it's just crazy. Yeah, to see someone like Magic Hall of Fame or just something like that. So yeah, but like more to your point, Joey. Like these people, like the actual top tier of the game, that know like okay, yeah, I only need 1 of these cards. I don't need 4 of them.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, to kind of just put a bow in this. I mean, I've played 3 of these decks a good bit this set, with the exception of being hyper aggro. And I do think they're all good in their own right for sure. I mean, obviously I've been an Emerald Steel player for the better part of a year, so that will always be a deck that I'll play, always a color combination. As I still sit with my discard deck sleeved up as I'm about to play a match in 25 minutes with it. I do love Amethyst Steel, especially with the new stuff with Calhoun. Obviously we've talked about Bell. Just tanks, just all the tools that it got, and it's just a very good mid-range deck. It's a lot of fun to play. And then Mike and I we've been testing this a little bit. The Sapphire Steel list, more of a mid-rangey, no wheel, but plays a lot more. He plays Calhoun, plays a lot, and then like you have Alice and Ariel. With Dime and stuff like that. So it's a super fun list to get resist. And then because there was one game I think I got 2 Cogsworth with a Calhoun out. It was like, wow, +3 resist Calhoun. That's obnoxious. So yeah, and then like, or you, like Joey was saying, like you have like the Oswald version, you have a wheel version, you have a wheel and Oswald version. It's like you can play so many different ways with that deck. And it's just a good deck at the end of the day. But so I think that's probably, I guess we'll do predictions in a second, after we get to the S tier. So starting off with the R S tier, in our opinion, we have Ruby Sapphire, Amber Steel, Steel Song, and then Amethyst Emerald, Ruby Amethyst, and then Mike's deck, which he's very happy about, in Amethyst Sapphire. So I know Mike's chomping at a bit, but we're going to start with Joey. So with the S tier, Joey, what are your thoughts on these S tier decks?
I mean, we've seen these decks since step 3, I think. They just all these iterations. Like these are by far the best combinations of cards in the game. They're just exploiting all the best cards in each of their colors. You have the 3 purple decks that are just like we talked about before. It's just all the purple decks have these 40 to 50 card shells that are just you slot in with extra cards from each color and
Yep.
their different deck. Steel Song, you got like 4 different variations of how to build Steel Song.
Yep.
Red Blue's probably the only one that's pretty cut and dry. This is the one way to play it, and that's how you go. But yeah, the name of all of these decks is consistency. They're trimmed down. They're very lean. The game plan is pretty straightforward on whatever variation you play. And so back to like what Mike was saying, where it's like those 2% differences here and there. Like if you play this card, these are your lines of play. If you play X card, these are your lines of play.
Yep.
And so like trying to game on how to go. And yeah, every single one of these decks you give in the hands of a top player, like they're gonna do well.
Yep.
Like
Oh yeah.
there's not a lot of room to wiggle with them, and they're solid.
Yep. What do I always tell you guys? It's like I want my deck to do my thing before your deck does your thing, and these are 5 decks, in our opinion, that can make that happen very much, like a vast majority of the time. And I know the big one that we have here obviously is everyone is saying that it's dead is going to be the Ruby Sapphire, but I think this deck is this deck will never not be a monster. Until we get a rotation, until Hiram gets nerfed, and then amongst other things. But with the addition of like Maui Shark and then like the Vitalosphere and just the different ways that you have going with that, that deck is just an absolute monster. And Europe loves Ruby Sapphire, if nothing else, with a million items. Who was it? It was I can't remember the guy's name.
Can't remember it
I don't
either.
remember his name. With the
It's
guy who
French.
played, yeah, was he French or was he Italian? I don't.
He might have been Italian.
Yeah, he won. Yeah, when he played 28 items or whatever it was in that deck. It was just a monster.
Queen was the. Didn't you say Queen was the best card in the game?
Yeah,
Best card draw in the game.
best card draw in the game. Yep. So, Mike, your thoughts on the S tier, and so you can gush about Blurple a little bit here.
Most
Yeah.
competitive deck.
Yeah, most competitive deck, right? If you guys haven't seen the video, make sure check
We'll,
it out.
we'll link it. We'll link it in the comments.
Yeah. Just to start from the front, like Ruby Sapphire, I think a lot of like we're hearing locally that people think it's dead, but I think that's just their hopes. I don't think that deck is dead at all. I think it's very strong. I don't think so. Its game plan is very streamlined, but at the same time, piloting that deck takes a certain individual. It's not as easy as it was. Like you don't just eat crayons anymore. You kind of have to navigate the early game to be able to win with that deck. Especially because some of these other decks are so fast now. So yeah, but once it still does its thing when it gets to end game. So if you let it get there, you're in trouble.
Yep.
Steel Song, shout out to Wochuk who put out his guide, updated it for set 6 for anybody that already purchased his guide. He did it for free, which is insane. A whole set 6 write up. He gave me the chance to write some stuff in there about Blurple as well. But go check it out. It is like the Steel Song Bible.
Yep.
If you are a Steel Song player, I highly recommend it. The deck is still very good. There's a bunch of ways you can build it. We're going to see a lot of this deck this weekend, no doubt in my mind. Amethyst Emerald shows up a lot more in EU than it does in NA. And that's kind of why I think, at least for my opinion, I put Emerald Steel in A because for some reason EU doesn't like Emerald Steel as much as we do in NA. They like the Amethyst version with Emerald. So, although Artibax posted out there that he doesn't think Emerald Amethyst is good enough anymore.
Fake news.
John and I have a fighting game background,
Yep.
and there is something that you did in fighting games called downplaying.
Said your character was bad.
To get buffs for your character, and I think like that is all that's going on right now because there is no way that I think Emerald Amethyst is a bad deck, and you have to like these guys. They're testing countless hours, I imagine,
Mm,
and they're testing countless matchups. It's also, and they're probably playing open most of the time, so they have full information to see
yep.
what is right, what is wrong. That's what you're doing at a high level when you're getting ready for one of the events, and that may be why they have these opinions because Steel may have a lot of answers for Emerald Amethyst, but I still think it's a good enough deck consistently. The purple and the green, the
Mm,
purple core that we talked about, and adding those green cards like Tom, Ursula, Bonsai. I think outside of Mim is probably the best two drop in the game. Smee's right there too.
yep.
But I mean, there's not a lot of it's a good deck. It's just a very good deck. I think it's one of the best
Shout outs to
for
Brian,
sure.
unless you're playing the stat version.
Yeah, unless you're playing the
Let
staff
me drop
version,
it to
that's
C.
yeah, it drops down for sure. Ruby Amethyst is Ruby Amethyst, right? It's always going to do its thing. Even that deck is seeing a couple different variations. You know, you have a more burn archetype, which is something from like Magic to where you're trying to just draw through your deck and get enough lore to end the game.
Mhm.
Not playing as much of a control aspect, attrition aspect as you could say.
Mm.
And then Blurple. I don't want to spend the next half an hour talking about it, but John mentioned, do your deck does its thing faster than other decks. So we talk about that purple core that's in a lot of decks. All blue does is make you faster. So I just want to be able to do the purple core faster because I have the blue. That's the only reason I'm playing blue
Mm.
pretty much in this deck. And purple just kind of handles itself from there. I think the addition of Genie and even some tech cards like Wasabi
Mhm.
have helped some of the holes within the deck. It's very fun. It's a very fun time in the meta. It kind of is
Yeah.
Genie, which
Mhm.
is crazy to me. It's not like you added and Sail,
Sale,
obviously
sale,
Sail.
sale was big. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Sail was big to be able to double the potential of seeing that two drop ramp.
Without
Um,
having to play something like one jump.
Yep.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, that actually is a very big deal. Those two cards kind of just made it. I think put it into S tier.
Yep.
Um, do I think it's going to have a very good showing this weekend? I hope so. I'd love to see it. Um, I think that a lot of the top players are prepping for it because it's had a little bit of a surge the past couple weeks.
Mhm.
So it's not that rogue, catch them by surprise pick as it once was. Um, so we'll see. I'm really excited for this.
It's also definitely not a pick up and play deck. It is,
No,
you
not
need
at
to
Oh
all.
no,
study it.
It's definitely
It's
not.
it's
Yeah.
very
very
difficult to
difficult. Yeah,
pilot.
Yeah.
yeah,
You can literally ink the wrong thing and you will lose the game from it. Like the minute
yeah.
decisions for that deck are very they are there. They are real. Um.
Which is like why I don't think it's going to have a good showing potentially, because I don't know how many true Blurple players are going to be showing up to these events.
Yeah.
There's a lot in EU.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
have to
okay.
say that there a lot. EU likes Blur. I mean, everybody likes Blurple.
It's
But
fun.
EU specifically, I think a lot of them like it. That they probably had reps on it through set 5.
Hmm.
Um, that I would love to see it. I really would. That would
Yep.
be insane if Blurple took down the first Continentals. Oh my god.
Ooh, man, that'd be a party. For real. No, but yeah, but just looking at similar thoughts to you guys. I think yeah, all these decks are just very good at the end of the day. Like we said, just my deck. I want to make my deck do its thing before you do your thing. Um, that's pretty much what all these do. Nothing else really to say about that. So now let's do quickly. Not really an ink play bandage, but like our overperformer and our underperformer of the weekend. We'll start with Mike. So your overperformer, like that you think is going to do very well in EU, and then your underperformer. What deck do you think is not going to do as great?
Let's see. Man, I almost want to pick Emerald Sapphire as the overperformer. I'm gonna pick Blurple as the overperformer,
Hmm.
even though it's in tier 1. I'm still gonna say it's gonna overperform
I
because
mean,
I want to see it.
yep, it's true though. We really haven't seen like outside of your win at TCG Con, like there really hasn't been many like huge. I mean, there's been a couple like day twos with it, but
Yeah,
nothing like major, like not like a top 16 or a top 8. So we very
I
well
don't
could.
think there was any day twos with it actually.
Wasn't there one? I thought there was one in
Mhm.
Vegas, or was there one in Seattle? There was one somewhere. I just don't remember where.
I think they were just short, at like
Oh,
44 points.
oh okay.
It might have been in Seattle. I don't want to say it'd be wrong. If
Hmm.
I am wrong, I apologize, but I don't think that there was a day two with
Yeah.
Blurple yet.
But again, yeah. So it has. Yeah, so it's true. It truly has not had a great. But it also haven't been many big tournaments with it too. Like for set 5.
There was one. There was one. I remember now. You're right. There
Yep.
definitely was one.
Yep.
Um, my underperformer I think is going to be Emerald Steel.
Yep.
Yeah, even where we have it on the tier list, I have a feeling. I don't know. Call it a gut call, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, overperformer, I'll say Blurple. Underperformer, Emerald Steel.
Joey.
Overperformer, even though it's not really over, would be Amber Steel. I think it's just going to have a ton of top 8s and a ton of high finishes.
Yep.
Probably one of the best conversion rates, I think. Underperformer, I'm going to go with red purple.
Ooh.
Yeah, a little hot.
That's a hot take right there.
I feel like there's not been a lot of I mean, there's definitely some red purple players out there, but I don't think they've been playing. Like, I just think the deck is just coming into its own now, and I just feel like people are going to bring 5 cards off than what it should be, 7 cards off where it should be, and it's going to poorly affect how they play.
Very well could see it, that's for sure. For me, I'm torn between 2 decks for my overperformer for sure. Between Sapphire Steel and then Amethyst Emerald. Those are probably 2 decks that I think I'm with you, Mike. Like I feel like Sapphire Steel is too good. There's too much downplaying. Like it can't be this bad as everyone's saying. But I'll take my overperformer, similar to what you were saying, how in Europe they love this deck. Like this is their aggro deck for sure, is the Amethyst Emerald deck. So I'll have that as my overperformer, and then same underperformer as you. It doesn't perform in Europe. Emerald Steel just does not perform in Europe for some reason. There was right like post Bucky, it didn't do anything, and then in Vegas it was everywhere.
I mean, Zan is going over there.
He's got to get through LCQ first though.
How much you want to bet he doesn't play Emerald Steel?
I didn't want to say it, but I don't know.
Qualified,
yep.
but
yep. So we'll see. I'm definitely very excited. I will be tuning in between my rounds, in between me just walking the floor at PAX, and I cannot wait to see what does. I can't wait to wake up tomorrow and see like what did well in LCQ. Like that's definitely what I'm looking forward to. And are they streaming LCQ? Do you guys know? Like, do they say it or not?
I don't know how they would. I hope so, but I don't know.
You'd have to pick pods that have good players in it.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but it's also like they're running it different. In Europe, they're doing the pods at different, like a staggered start, whereas in NA, they're gonna just do them all at the same time.
They probably will stream it then. Since it's staggered start, they probably will stream it.
I hope they do. I mean, good content to watch.
Any outside of before you end, send us off, John. Any outside of Tamago and Genie, any cards that you guys think are gonna really show up out of set 6 at this tournament?
That's a good question. Surprise.
Baymax.
Baymax.
I wish. I'd love to see some Baymax.
That's the Sapphire Steel deck that I think there's. I built a Dock Sapphire Steel. That's like super low to the ground, and that's how you get your card draw. I don't know if it's good or not, but I don't know. I'd love to see Baymax do something too, but it couldn't work in Blurple. I don't know how you could do it.
I think the biggest one is going to be Maui Shark. Like Maui Shark is unreal in pretty much every Emerald list, or sorry, every Ruby list, whether it's Ruby Sapphire, Ruby Amethyst, or even Amber Ruby. Like I think Shark is an unreal card. Like the fact that you could brawl something is like banish a creature, gain a lore, and then just like keep continuing just to cycle the brawls, and just like it's just so crazy. Like there's so many cool plays you can do with Shark, and even like we were talking about with, like the Vitalis Sphere, and like playing against that is just so nutty. So Joey, your card? Oh, you said Baymax, I guess. Yeah. Mike, what's your card then?
I was thinking Shark as well. I don't want to say Sail because that's probably in the same category as Go-Go and Genie.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna say Gazelle.
Ooh, Gazelle's a good one. Gazelle's a sneaky good one. There's some good stuff you can do with Gazelle.
Yeah, I think that card can be explored a little more.
I was trying to fit Gazelle in Emerald Steel, but it really didn't have the spot for it. It fits a lot better in Amethyst Emerald.
Yeah.
Oh,
Actually, I
you
take mine
could
back.
play
I take mine back. Oswald. I'm saying
Oh,
Oswald.
we're saying Oswald.
Yeah. Yeah. Leave it to EU for them to break it.
Yep.
Leave it to them.
No, but if you play Gazelle on your Prince John, they can't challenge it or target it.
You're not wrong, actually.
If they don't have an evasive.
If they don't have an evasive.
Yeah.
Until they Shadow Finder it.
Oh my god.
The following turn.
I played against someone and they forgot that that Tamago had. I just played a Tamago wrong,
Evasive?
and they forgot they had
Yeah.
evasive and just like turned their Diablo sideways, and I was like, "Say
Oh my
goodnight,
God.
Guy.
goodnight, sweet prince."
Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you everyone for hanging out with us and listening to our EU tier list preview, talking about cards and decks that we like. Hope you guys all enjoyed this. Let us know any comments, questions any comments, questions, concerns in the comment section. Hit us up. Let us know your top decks for EU Continentals, even NA Continentals. We're only a month away. You can make a prediction. If we can make a prediction, you can make a prediction.
Yeah.
So for the rest of the Freedom Gaming team, I am John. Hope you guys have a great night and day, and enjoy that EU Continentals. Peace.
See ya.